Good morning, students. Welcome back to Atmiya Green School. I'm Afrin Sayed, your English teacher. Students, in the last class, that means in yesterday's video, I have shared adjectives video so that you can revise and you can note that how adjective describes the noun. So, we have learned about nouns, we have learned about pronouns, we have learned about adjectives. Adjectives are basically things which describes noun. Then we have already learned about verbs. So, if you can remember that what are verbs, students? Verbs are something which can shows action. So anything which shows the action are known as verbs. We had a detailed description over verbs and we have totally understood that how verbs work. Now here we are with adverbs. Adverbs are a word that modifies a verb or which describes the verbs are known as adverbs. So anything which modifies or describes the verbs are known as adverbs. I repeat, anything which modifies or describes noun are adjectives, and anything which describes verbs or modifies verbs are adverbs. So over here you can see on your screen, students, here we have a definition of adverb which says adverb is a word that modifies verb. An adjective or another adverb expressing manner, either in a place, time, or a degree. A word that can modify a phrase, clause, or sentence. An adverb is a word that tells us more about a verb. This is a very important line, students. An adverb is a word that tells us more about a verb. So anything which tells us more about the verb is known as adverb. Now, when I say it tells more about the verb. So basically, like I'll give the example that if we say that Priya is dancing. So dancing which means dancing is a verb. I repeat, dancing is a verb because it is an action. It is action which is performed by a noun, that is dancing. But when I say Priya is dancing gracefully, so what is describing our action? That how is she dancing? How is she dancing? She is dancing gracefully. So when I say Priya is dancing gracefully, so it is describing our action, that is dance. What is describing our action? Dance, that is gracefully. So gracefully becomes our adverbs. Therefore over here it is written that an adverb is a word that tells us more about a verb. It qualifies or modifies a verb. The man ran quickly. So if you can identify, students, that ran is verb. But how did he run? He ran quickly. So quickly act as an adverb. I repeat, quickly act as an adverb. So over here, the man ran quickly. Here quickly act as an adverb, which means that a person is running quickly. So quickly is an adverb. Okay. In the following examples, the adverb is in bold and the verb that modifies it in italics. Over here, John speaks loudly. So how is John speaking? He is speaking loudly. So loudly becomes our adverb as it is modifying our action, that is speaks. He is speaking. Speaking is an action. So eventually, as it is an action, it becomes our verb. But how is he speaking? He is speaking loudly. So loudly becomes our adverb. I hope you understood, students. Afterwards, she smoked a cigarette. So it is letting you about the timing, that when. So it is written afterwards. So it is modifying the time. It is modifying the verb, and it is showing the time when action was carried out. It is showing that when was that action carried out. So that to act as a adverb. Now Mary lives locally. So where does Mary live? So it is answering locally. So here we are getting to know about the place. The place. So that is an adverb. But adverb can also modify adjectives. Remember, students, just like that, adverbs modifies verb, they also sometimes modifies adjective. Like Tara is really beautiful. So how beautiful she is? Really beautiful. Okay. Or even other adverbs. It works very well. Look at this example. He is really handsome. That was extremely kind of you. When someone does something very kind towards you, or someone is being very kind to you, always say that was extremely kind of you. So here extremely, that how much kindful he was, then it was extremely. Modify another adverb. She drives incredibly slowly. Now here slowly is itself is an adverb, and incredibly is showing that she drives incredibly slow. So sometimes it even modifies our own adverb. Adverbs also modifies itself. Like over here, he drives extremely fast. Here, fast is already an adverb, and extremely shows that is something at extreme level. Okay, note that adverbs have other function too. They can modify a whole sentence. Obviously, I can't know everything. So, obviously, I can't know everything. It modifies the entire sentence. Modify a prepositional phrase. It's immediately inside the door. Here, inside the door is our prepositional phrase which is being modified by our adverb immediately. So we have seen, students, that what are adverbs? Adverbs are something which modifies noun, which modifies verb, basically which shows that how verbs work. Adverbs are basically something which shows about or which describes more about verb. But sometimes they even modifies adjectives, sometimes they even modifies adverbs, and sometimes they even modifies the prepositional phrases. Over here, there are different form of adverbs, students. If you can see that here we have an adjective that is quick. So here basically sometimes or most probably ly is being added to adjective. Here, like you can see, quick, then adjective quick becomes quickly. Now here quickly becomes an adverb. Quick is an adjective. Adjectives are something which describes noun. But when you add ly, it becomes adverb. Just like that, careful is an adjective. Just when you have added ly, that it becomes carefully, which means it is an adverb now. Beautiful. So over here, beautiful is an adjective. But when you add ly, it becomes adverb. That is beautifully. Most adjectives add ly. Quickly, nicely, solely, carefully. You can see over here. Then adjective ending with able or able, able or able, that is, then it has to be changed in to e or y form. Like over here you can see regrettable. So regrettable is an adjective, and as it is ending with e, then we will add ly, that is regrettably. Then horrible, it becomes horribly. Then change y to ily. Over here adjective endings with I. Over here also it will change into ily. You can see in the above one, in the foremost one, the most of adjectives are being added with ly and formed adverb. But in the case of e, it becomes we need to add y at the end of the adjective. Like over here regrettable, and as regrettable end with e. I repeat, as regrettable is being ending with e, we will add y. Just like that, over here, when we have the adjectives which are ending with y, then we will add ILY. Just like over here, happy, it is ending with y, so we will add ILY. ILY. Okay. When it is ending with IC, that is economic, then we are adding ICALLY. That is basically we are going to add ICALLY. Okay, so whenever it is ending with IC, we are supposed to add ALLY. Okay, remember students, whenever you are asked to change the form of the word, like if I have ever given you change horrible into adverb form, then what you have to do, you have to choose horribly. I hope it is very much clear to you all students. Now, but not all words that end in ly are adverbs. The following ly words, for example, are all adjectives like friendly, lovely, lonely, neighborly. Okay, so you don't have to have the misconception that whenever a word has ly, it is an adverb. Okay, sometimes they even act as a adjective, and some adverbs have no particular form, like over here, well, fast, very, never, always, often, still. Okay, of course, like an adjective, here even adverbs can be changed into comparative or superlative form. Even adverbs can be changed into adjective, like adjectives, we can even change adverbs into comparative and superlative formats. Now, we'll learn kinds of adverbs, and in kinds of adverb we'll learn first, the first and foremost is adverb of manner. Adverb of manner tells us sorry. Adverb of manner tells us the manner or way in which something happens. So when a sentence or when a verb which is being modified, that how does it happen, how does it took place, or how is it happening, when it answers the question how, then it is an adverb of manner. I repeat, it answers the question of adverb of manner. Like over here, he speaks slowly. So how is he speaking? He is speaking slowly. So slowly becomes your adverb. Just like that, they helped us cheerfully. So how did they help? They helped cheerfully. So cheerfully becomes your adverb. Okay, so that is adverb of manner. You have to identify that what kind of adverb it is. So when the sentence answer the question that how verb is doing, then it is adverb of manner. Over here, James Bond drives his car fast. I repeat, James Bond drives his car fast. So how is James Bond driving his car? He is driving it fast. So fast becomes your adverb of manner. Okay, we normally use adverb of manner with the dynamic action or verbs. What do you mean by dynamic? Dynamic, which means something which is changeable. When we use the word dynamic, it means changeable. So we use adverb of manner with the dynamic verbs, not with the stative or a state verb. Like, he ran fast, she came quickly, they worked happily. Okay, she looked beautifully, it seemed strangely, they are happily. We don't use like this. We use he ran fast, she came quickly, they worked happily. Okay, so we always use the adverb of manner with the action dynamic verbs, or the dynamic or something which is in the changeable form, not something which is a stative or something which cannot move. Okay, now we have adverbs of place. I repeat, adverbs of place. Adverbs of place tell us the place where something happens. What does it tells? Adverbs of place I'll bold it in red color so that you can understand it. Adverbs of place tells us the place where some things happen. I repeat, adverb of place tells us the place where something happens. They answer the question where. They answer the question where. Just like the adverb of manner answer the question how, adverb of place answer the question to where. Please sit here. So here is the adverb of place. They looked everywhere. Everywhere becomes your adverb of place. 2 cars were parked outside. So outside becomes your adverbs of place. So wherever, whenever we use or whenever the sentence answer the question in where, it is adverb of place. So we have completed adverb of manner. We have completed adverb of place. And over here we are with the adverb of time. As the word says, adverb of time, that means that it is showing us that when does it took place or when does it happen, that is adverb of time. Adverbs of time tells us something about the time that something happens. Adverbs of time mainly modifies verb. I repeat, adverb of time mainly modifies verb. He came yesterday. So when does he came? So it is yesterday. I want it now. When do I want it? I want it to be now. So now and yesterday become your adverbs of time. Then we even have adverb of frequency, which shows that how many number of time it took place. Like I read newspaper daily. So how often you read newspaper? That is daily. So daily becomes your adverb of frequency. We sometimes watch a movie. So how often you watch a movie or how many times you usually watch a movie? Then it says the answer sometimes. Okay. So we have adverbs of manner, we have adverb of time, we have adverb of place, and we have adverb of frequency. Frequency tells us how many number of times does it takes place. So this is basic knowledge about adverbs. What are basically adverbs or what are basically kinds of adverbs. We have degree of adverbs, like I have said that just like adjectives, even adverbs can be changed into comparative or superlative degree. Adverbs of degree tells us the degree or extent to which something happens. They answer the question how much or to what degree. She entirely agrees with him. So how much does she agree with him? She entirely, that means not 50% or 40% or 60%, but full 100% she gets agree with him. Mary is very beautiful. So to what degree is Mary beautiful? So it is being answered by the question very. He drove quite dangerously. So how dangerously she drove? She drove quite dangerously. So that is our adverb of degree. I hope you would have understood it entirely. Now students, I have given you basic knowledge about adverbs. I have covered what are adverbs. I have covered kind of adverbs. I have given you several examples to make it easier to understand that what are basically adverbs. Now just like any other lecture, what we'll do is we'll watch the video. Along with the video, we'll understand it in a more brief format and we'll understand it in a more simpler and easier way, so that you can never forget what are adverbs. So let's watch a video and understand it in a more proper way.
Are different types of words we use when we speak and write. There are 8 main parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections.
Yes, there are different parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections.
So, what's an adverb? An adverb is a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb.
We have already learned, students, that an adverb is a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. I repeat, a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb.
Adverbs often help answer the questions how, when, where, and to what extent.
Yes, these are kind of adverbs like how, where, when, and to what extent. Okay, so students, remember that rhyme it so that you can understand it and so that you can remember it for a long period of time. It's easy when you rhyme words, like a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb is adverb. A word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb is adverb. How, when, where, and to what extent. How, when, where, and to what extent. Okay, so these are kind of adverbs.
Let's look at some of the different types of adverbs and learn how we use them. Many adverbs describe verbs by telling how an action happens.
How an action happens, that shows adverb of manner.
Like quickly running, peacefully sleeping, or talking loudly.
Walking, running quickly, sleeping peacefully, talking loudly, these all are action.
Do you notice something about these three adverbs?
Which shows that how an action happens. Okay, like running is an action, sleeping is an action, talking is an action. But quickly, peacefully, and loudly shows that how an action happens. How did they take place? How did they took place? It shows how an action happens. That is adverb of manner.
Oh yeah, they all end in ly. Quick, peaceful, and loud are all adjectives that can describe nouns. But when we want to describe a verb, we often add an ly on the end.
Yes, quick, peaceful, and loud are adjectives, and by adding ly to it, it becomes your adverb.
To create an adverb. Can you think of some other adverbs that end in ly? Adverbs can also describe when or how often something happens.
Now, another is when. That is adverb of time. That when or how often something happens. And if you see how often something happens, can you remember which type of adverb it is? Adverb of frequency. Okay.
These are words like now, then, tomorrow, always, never, and sometimes. We can use
Now, words like now, then, tomorrow, always, never, sometimes shows the adverb of time. Okay, and how often something happen. Like now, then, tomorrow shows that when does it happen. It shows us time. Whereas always, never, sometimes shows how often some things happen.
use these words to describe verbs or adjectives, like walking now or always happy. Can you think of any other adverbs that describe when or how often something happens? Adverbs can also answer the question where.
Where? Now, remember students, where is adverb of? Adverb of place. Very good. Where is adverb of place?
Words such as inside, outside, here, there, up, and down can be used as adverbs to tell where something happens.
Yes, words like inside, outside, here, there, up, down shows that where something happens, the adverb of place.
Like look up or come here. Can you think of any other adverbs that can describe where something happens? Finally, we can use adverbs to answer to what extent. These are adverbs like barely, almost, very, and extremely. These adverbs can describe verbs like almost crying, or they can modify adjectives like extremely hot, or they
shows that to what extent. Adverb sometimes shows that to what extent, like barely, almost, very, extremely.
Can even describe other adverbs like very, quickly. Can you think of some other adverbs that might answer the question, to what extent? Now let's see if you can find the adverbs in the following sentence. Yesterday, we very carefully planted pretty flowers outside. Here's a hint. There are 4 adverbs in this sentence. Pause here to think, or keep watching to hear the answer. Yesterday is an adverb that tells when we planted the flowers.
Yes, yesterday shows that when does we planted the flowers.
Carefully describes how we planted the flowers.
Carefully describes how we planted the flowers.
Very describes to what extent we were careful.
Very describes to what extent we were careful.
And outside describes where we planted the flowers.
And outside describes that where we planted the flowers.
The word pretty is not an adverb.
Yes, pretty is not an adverb. But why pretty is not an adverb? Because it is describing flowers, and flowers are noun, and something which describes nouns are adjectives.
It's an adjective because it describes a noun, flowers. So how can you use adverbs in your own writing? Listen to this boring sentence. The dog wagged his tail and jumped. How can you add some adverbs to this sentence to make it more detailed and interesting? Pause here to think, or keep watching for some ideas. There are many ways you could add adverbs to this sentence. You might say the dog happily wagged his tail and jumped up and down. Or maybe the dog always wagged his tail and jumped excitedly. So remember, adverbs are words we use to describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs.
Remember, students, that adverbs are words we use to describe mainly verbs, but also sometimes adjectives and other adverbs. I hope you are very much clear with adverbs, and I have covered all the topics which are being there in your textbook. Students, if you have understood it, and if you have any doubt, you can go through the video again, and you can watch the entire video again. After watching the video from your grammar composition book, before solving the exercises, go through the chapter, which will make it easier to solve your exercise. And when you will solve the exercise, you will able to understand that at what extent you understood the entire topic. Okay, thank you so much, students. Have a very good day. Stay blessed and happy.